is LeBron on the list? What did Nikola Jokic do that was so bad? Mark Cuban's on the list for sure. Starting small at number 10, we've got Darrell Armstrong. While bouncing around from multiple teams during his tenure in the league, he had a relatively short run with the Mavs from 2004 through 2006. And the reason why his stint with the Mavs was so brief was that even the Mavericks fans seemed to be extremely annoyed by him and his antics. Specifically speaking, in December of 2005, before a home game, Armstrong grabbed the microphone and yelled to the crowd, "How about those Redskins?" After the Dallas Cowboys lost to the then Washington Redskins in a playoff game. Now, anyone with a brain knows that most likely 99% of people either from or that reside in Dallas are diehard Dallas Cowboys fans. Therefore, the remark coming from a player who represented their hometown NBA team didn't take this lightly and booed the hell out of him for the comment. As a result, Armstrong was fined $1,000 for his silly actions. Coming in at number 9 is Tyrus Thomas, a former high-flying forward for the Charlotte Bobcats during his prime. Known for exploding above the rim and embarrassing defenders who tried to jump anywhere close to his airspace. The guy was putting players on posters left and right throughout his career. However, during his rookie season with the Chicago Bulls, he was invited to be a part of the 2006 NBA Slam Dunk Contest, where each player would receive a $16,000 purse for just competing in the competition, giving Thomas a chance to make even more of a name for himself as a top-level athlete. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned for Thomas. Tyrus commented that competing in the dunk contest was just free money, which the NBA deemed unsportsmanlike and not competitive. As a result, Tyrus was fined $10,000, bringing his purse down to just a little over $6,000, while everyone else received the total amount. Needless to say, Thomas earned a $40 million contract with the Bobcats during the prime of his NBA career, so it shouldn't have affected him that much. Following Tyrus's slip-up is LeBron James at the 8th spot. Now, we all know LeBron James is one of the greatest players ever to play the game of basketball. We also know that LBJ is one of the most emotional players to put on an NBA jersey. In his earlier days and first run as a Cavalier, LeBron became extremely upset about not getting a call during a drive to the basket. Shocker, am I right? In typical LeBron fashion, the Cavaliers star complained to the referees before getting benched by head coach Mike Brown for a second. Just before sitting on the bench, LeBron put his Lionel Messi soccer skills to the test and kicked a water bottle into the stands. Still, the referees didn't catch it, and if they did, they'd probably send him back into the locker room for the night. Although it seemed like a seamless act, the King faced a $25,000 fine that significantly impacted the league. Dropping in at the 7th spot is Nikola Jokic, one of the most likable players who gives hilarious post-game interviews, and not to mention, debatably one of the top 5 big men of all time to play in NBA history. However, some post-game remarks are meant to be kept to yourself. In a post-game interview inside the Denver Nuggets locker room, Jokic made a playful comment that involved same-sex sexuality and quickly defended his statement with the infamous "no" saying. The Serbian superstar was slapped with a $25,000 fine for using derogatory and offensive language. The most deserving fine on the list comes from the iconic and top 25 rebounders of all time, Dennis Rodman. The guy stood out from the crowd no matter what, whether that was taking a quick trip to Las Vegas during the NBA Finals or becoming best friends with Kim Jong-un. There's no one like the Worm. But one of the worst moments of Rodman's career came when he battled it out with Kevin Garnett for a rebound. Rodman fell to the floor and had an issue with a cameraman, who I guess he thought was trying to injure him. As a result, Rodman kicked the guy in the groin and was fined $25,000. But that wasn't all. Rodman faced assault allegations and eventually had to pay the cameraman $200,000 while facing an 11-game suspension. That's Dennis Rodman for you. Leading us to the halfway point is Dwight Howard, who he suited up for the Charlotte Hornets during the 2017-2018 season. Dwight's always been known as a highly playful guy with everyone and doesn't take life that seriously when having fun on the court. Well, maybe he had too much fun in this moment. Dwight went slightly overboard when he stuck his tongue out with his index and middle fingers surrounding both sides of his tongue. The meaning of Dwight's actions was sexually related, and I think we all know what sign we're talking about here. He intended to provoke a reaction, and he certainly did that from the NBA, as the league fined Dwight $35,000 for his actions. Marking his spot just inside the top 5 is former Minnesota Timberwolves president of basketball operations David Kahn. His $50,000 fine came from his comments about his very own player Michael Beasley, who Minnesota had just acquired in the summer of 2010. During a radio interview, Khan commented about Beasley's personal life outside of basketball, explicitly related to smoking the weed, as Stephen A. Smith would say. Well, David Khan didn't say all of that. Still, he did mention that Beasley's participation in smoking pot was worrisome, since Michael was coming into just his second season in the league after being drafted second overall, and that he was still very young and immature. Of course, the NBA didn't accept the unprofessional comments and once again sent David an invoice for 50 large. Now, there isn't a list of whatever ridiculous NBA category you're talking about if J.R. Smith isn't on it. Solidifying his place at number 3 stems from J.R. Smith infamously untying his opponent's shoes at the free throw line while he was a New York Knick. In an attempt to gain an advantage, J.R. decided not to be professional and continuously untied players' shoes. However, we're not really sure how significant of an advantage it really was. Nonetheless, it's still hilarious. As a result, JR was fined $50,000 for his actions, and head coach at the time, Mike Woodson, told the media and organization that he'd got a lot of growing up to do. This fine is so ridiculous, but believe it or not, it's true. Before the 2007 NBA All-Star Weekend, former Los Angeles Laker Vladimir Radmanovich felt he needed some alone time and decided to go snowboarding before resuming the season. It's no wonder at the same time the Lakers were trying to figure things out on the court, as they had a generational talent in Kobe Bryant, who needed help from his teammates. However, the forward decided to travel to Utah to go snowboarding, a trip that would cost him a fine of $500,000. Here's the kicker. Radmanovich separated his shoulders on that trip and was out for most of the season. He initially told the Lakers that he slipped on ice and hurt himself in an attempt to keep the franchise from voiding his contract. Still, he later admitted that he had gone snowboarding behind the team's back and had to accept a $500,000 fine, about 10% of his salary that year. And bringing us home is Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban. Cuban's the most fined person in NBA history, which doesn't seem to shock anyone, as the guy is known for his most outrageous rants from sitting courtside and remarks to the media. However, the most iconic fine was when he told his players to tank for a better draft position. On a podcast episode with Julius Erving, he prefaced his comments with the sentiment that he probably shouldn't say what he was about to say. He went on to talk about how the team was losing on purpose that season in a movement that would help benefit the franchise in the future, resulting in a $600,000 fine to Cuban's bank account that will even hurt the richest of people. And there you have it. These are the most ridiculous fines in NBA history. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and as always, subscribe for more.